What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we are out on the Africa Twin 2022. Before we get into it, let's roll the intro. Now, just looking at the model lineup for this Africa Twin, we've got 3 different model lineups, and each of those have 2 different options. So you've got your standard Africa Twin, which is the 1100cc twin cylinder that has either the manual gearbox or the DCT gearbox in it, and that'll set you back at a £13,049. Coming in the next level up, we have got the Africa Twin Adventure Sports. Once again, that has got the manual or DCT option within it. And that has a price tag of £14,749. And then lastly, the king of the Africa Twin lineup is the Africa Twin Adventure Sports ES. That, once again, has a manual or the DCT option. And the manual option for that is £16,149. Those prices I've mentioned are all the manual variant. If you're going to add the DCT option, you are going to be looking at about a £900 increase. So far, I have reviewed the NT 1100, and that card will be on the top right hand corner of the screen. So after you've watched this video, make sure you go and head over and watch that. The reason I say that is the NT 1100 and the Africa Twin 1100 share the same engine, chassis and the frame. Internally, very similar bikes, but externally, I think I actually prefer this. The old Africa Twin. It's got a little bit more punch. When I say that, the NT 1100 that I test rode was the DCT variant, so it's a little bit different. I found the NT 1100 being a little bit lacking with its 100 horsepower and 227-ish kilo weight. Africa 11 still has 100.6 brake horsepower, so they've not increased horsepower on this bike, but with that manual transmission, it just makes you feel like you got a little bit more punch to it. I'm going to start off talking about what comes with the standard Africa Twin, because once again, I think it's a really good package with the amount of kit and technology that you get with it for the price range. I think it's pretty damn good. Once we've then covered off the standard, I'll then show you what extras you get for the Adventure Sport ES. Ah, lovely weather. Lovely. Looking at the front of this motorcycle, we have got this touring screen, and it can be adjusted. So 2 hands on either side of the tab here, push them in, and then you're going to lift up and push down. A little bit frustrating that you do actually need 2 hands to utilise this. I do like it with the KTM where they've got the dial on both sides, so it doesn't matter which hand you do it, but it's just one-handed to adjust the screen, unlike this one. Below that, we have got a little sun visor, definitely not needed on a day like today, but that is protecting the 2 screens. Yep, I said it, 2. You got your 6.5 inch TFT screen, and then just below that you got your smaller old school screen. So starting at the bottom one, all you've got is your speed, your gear and your mileage. Nice and simple. Within that and also then incorporates the lights, the indicators and other information like that. Like the cruise control, kind of got the cruise control set on. The Africa Twin does come with 4 rider modes. I currently got it set to Urban, and as you can see, that's the display on the TFT. On the left hand side, you've got all the instruments. You've got the up and down arrow. If you're going to push them, they'll then change over the rider modes. So there you go, we're in gravel, and that's where your power, your engine braking, your ABS, things like that will change automatically. Pushing it again, off-road, see how it's changed. The information that's on the screen. Got user 1, which is then you can change all the information and display what you actually want to show on it. User 2, same again. And then finally Tour. So you've got the 4 rider modes that are provided by Honda and they're set up, and then you've got 2 users that you can then adjust and tweak to your liking. I like how there's different amounts of information displayed on the screens. So Tour, that's what's got the most information on display at any one time, ranging from your phone showing it's connected, how much battery you've got in your phone, the time, the air temperature, different trip modes, obviously your fuel, bike temperature, your gear, the revs, the speed, all that type of information. Can get a little bit too much and a little bit confusing for people. So put it to urban and there you go. Reduces the amount of information that's on display at any one time. So I've got it set, so I've got my fuel on the left, my rev counter and the speed on the right, and it's just showing whereabouts my power, my engine braking, my traction control, my ABS settings are. Overall, I actually quite like this dual screen setup. So when you are stood up, if you're going to start taking this off-road, I can't really see the TFT screen, but I can see the one below it. So I can see that I'm doing 56 miles an hour, but I can't see the TFT. But let's face it, if you're getting a bike like this, there's going to be times where you're in an off-roady adventure style position. Moving down from that, very similar to the NC1100, on the right hand side we have got a USB inlet, nice waterproof housing. It's really far back in that connector as well, so hopefully no chance of rain getting inside it. Coming down on the left hand side there, that's where you've got your USB 12 volt standard socket. Plenty of space on this handlebar if you want to put a phone mount or a sat-nav mount. Mirrors are pretty good, fairly minimal vibrations coming through them. Nothing worse when you look into a mirror and you can't even see the car behind you because they're vibrating too much. So far I'm really impressed with how this thing handles. Currently we are on hybrid knobblies, or road legal knobblies, whatever you want to call them, but you couldn't tell. The feel through the road, there is no difference from this to a road tyre. On the standard Africa Twin you do get an 18.8 litre tank. That isn't the largest tank that you can get when you start thinking about doing your adventure touring, but fuel economy wise this bike is pretty good on fuel. So actually you are going to get pretty far on a standard tank. Now I'll make a point of that because later on when we talk about this adventure sports, this has got a pretty big tank compared to that, but like I said, we'll discuss that later on. The cockpit area does feel pretty big because you look at it, it comes down into the tank, into your crotch area. My knees are nicely tucked in behind the tank and the fairing, so actually there's very little wind is hitting my legs. One thing this bike does have is an amazing turning circle. Apart from my dirt bikes, I don't think I've ever had a road bike with such a tight turning circle. Let's talk about some of the electronics that's inside this beast. First of all, we've got LEDs all round, which is always nice to see. We've also got daytime running LEDs, and obviously they will change over when you either go into a tunnel or it becomes too dark. With incorporation of the LEDs, the turn indicators, we have self-cancelling turn indicators, which I think is a really nice thing. How many times do you see nowadays when people forget to turn them off? So it will just cancel it for you. I know some systems are done with the IMU, so it works out your lean angle, so it knows when you come up. I know that's with the Harley. I know with the KTM GT it's a time, so after a certain amount of time they'll self-cancel. So I'm not sure what system Honda have used, but they do have it in there. We have got cruise control as standard, bottom right hand side, same as the NT1100. I don't know why they've done it on the right hand, because I'm going along, I want to turn it on, I take my hand off the throttle to push the button, so then come back on the throttle, come off the throttle to then push it again to actually turn it on. Same as the NT1100. Don't know why, should be on the left hand side, because it's exactly the same in the NT1100. Looking at this array of buttons, are you telling me they couldn't got rid of one of these and put the cruise control on it? Out of all this, all you really need is that centre line, and that's what's more annoying. Yeah, you got your indicators, your horn and your hazards, bottom left. On the top side, yeah, you've got your passing light. Rest of those buttons are put in nil and void, other than those centre 3. So it would have been nice to see Honda put those cruise control buttons on the left hand side. Another thing this bike has got is emergency brake signal. What that means is you're going along, someone pulls out and you slam on the brakes. What it will do is it will flash your hazards. It will flash your hazards for you until you've stopped doing your emergency brake. Something previously, a few years ago, you had to buy an aftermarket dongle to attach into the bike. This aftermarket dongle had a sensor on it and it knew when you were braking, so it would then flash your brake light. But obviously the system nowadays, they've gone for the hazards, and it's a nice little safety feature that manufacturers are starting to put on their bikes. Now let's talk about seat height and riding position. I'm 6 foot and I can get both feet flat on the floor. Seat height, as standard, it comes between 850mm and 875mm. But like with Honda, they've got you covered if you're either a shorter or a taller rider. So like I said, standard seat 850 to 875. You've got the taller seat, which is 875 to 895. Or you've got the smaller seat, which is 825 to 845. Something that I personally think is really nice to see that their manufacturers are thinking about for the different riders out there. Just because someone's a little bit shorter or they've got a shorter leg to their torso, why should they be penalised and not being able to enjoy bikes like this? Looking at Zoe, she ain't the tallest and she definitely struggles on some bikes. So having a different seat option straight out the factory door, I think is spot on. So as you go into the realms of having to buy aftermarket seats or getting them carved out, and it just becomes expensive. So looking at my riding position, really nice comfortable bend in the legs. Foot pegs are in a great position. My top half, I'm not straight, I'm just a little bit bent over, but in a really comfortable position. This is definitely something you could see yourself chomping on the miles on a touring style trip. The only thing at the minute that does kind of annoy me is I've got the screen set up to the highest position just to make sure the wind kind of pushes off me the most. Problem with that is then when you start getting into the twisties, the top of the screen is kind of where you're looking, so you find yourself having to like duck a little bit more or trying to have your vision a little bit higher. Yeah, I could lower it, but then it's going to create the buffeting on the helmet, so catch-22, try and work around it. Obviously it doesn't help when you're trying to do YouTube videos. Obviously the best audio is what is required, so having a constant wind noise smashed onto my helmet is not ideal. Which I know one thing you can do is you can get those like little attachments, add-ons onto the top, so then push the wind even further, but that just adds another layer of stuff in your vision. And finally, to add on with electronics, is the African Twin that comes with a quick shifter up and down. Another nice feature to see a standard that comes with this bike is it's got the rear rack fitted straight away, and not only that, in the rear fairing there's these slots for the side luggage as well. As always, a bike like this, you are going to be wanting to do some form of touring or adventure riding, so Honda have got you covered with the back box. They've got a couple of different options. You've got an aluminium one with 42 litres, which should fit most full face helmets with a max carry load of 6 kilos. But if you need that little bit more space, you got the plastic one coming in at 58 litres, and that will fit 2 full face helmets in. So really nice to see, plenty of luggage options. So that's not even including the side bags. And roads like this are absolutely ideal for this bike. Suspension is set up really nicely, takes all the bumps. If you do start taking this thing off-road, standing position, really comfortable, plenty of space for your knees to start gripping into the tank, and more importantly the handlebars, the position is just really nice set up. The only thing I would change potentially is the lever position, but the height of the handlebar is spot on. So far I'm definitely impressed with this engine, more than what I was on the NT1100. Like I said, I reckon that's because this is the manual and that one was the DCT variant. And you know what, for stock exhaust, sounds pretty good. When we stop in a bit, we'll do a sound test of this twin cylinder 1100cc engine. Like I said before, I'm really impressed how this thing handles. So far it's just eating everything I've thrown at it. Here we go, little sound test. Remember I said twin cylinder, 1100cc, see how she sounds. Pretty good. After I just pulled over there for the little sound test, I was thinking, what else is on this bike? Obviously I mentioned the TFT screen at the top, but I didn't say it is also touchscreen, and you can touch it with the gloves, I can confirm. So that's a nice little added feature. What else electronics has this bike got? Tell you what, this has got 7 levels of torque control. So on the right hand side there it says T, and there's 7 different options. So whether you're on road, off road, on gravel, sand, mud, whatever it may be, you can adjust the torque that's coming through that throttle to suit your needs. Nice little added feature. Going along these twisty roads, we've got corner and ABS, but what's nice to see is even in off-road mode you still have corner and ABS. And I think finally to add in is it's got 3 different levels of wheelie control. Always nice to see on a bike like this. Not quite sure how relevant it'll be. It's not the most punchiest engine. With that weight coming in at 226 kilos, it's a pretty heavy bike. And if you can add in the DCT gearbox, it adds like another 10 kilos on top of that. So how much that wheelie control is going to come in, I don't know, but it's nice to see they've given you different levels of wheelie control. This bike does come in at 3 different colour modes. This bike does come in at 3 different colours. I have got the pearl white, it's got the ballistic black, and then there's a red variant as well. I think all of them look really nice. Me personally, if I was going to buy this bike, I really like this colour scheme. If it wasn't this, I think I'd go for the red. Something to note there, obviously I just pulled over like I said and I turned the engine off. The cruise control, it was still activated when I turned the engine back on. It's nice to see that the bike remembers whether the cruise control was on or not, so you're not having to constantly go and turn it on and off every time you turn off the ignition. I'm currently travelling along at the Jurassic Coast Road, and if you've not been down this like south coast, southwest area, highly recommend get down here. Some beautiful roads. until you're stuck behind a car anyway. Look at this. Like I said, these type of roads, this bike absolutely eats it up. I'd love to get it onto a bit of off-road, green lane in style, see how it handles, but unfortunately that's not on the cards for today. Let's get moving, let's get moving. Don't know why you're sat there. It is quite windy today, so I do apologise if my microphone is getting battered by the wind, but doing the best I can. I've been out on this bike for a couple of hours now. Stopped a few times, changed the batteries over, etc. on the camera equipment, and so far no issues with getting a numb bum. Vibrations is very minimal through the feet, nothing through the handlebars. It's definitely something you look for when testing a bike to see if it's going to be touring worthy. I know I've read comments about this bike, and some people say that the DCT option is really good for off-road. Let's face it, it makes it pretty much an automatic bike with the off-road capability. I have done a fair amount of off-road myself, and a recluse clutch on a dirt bike is amazing. So having basically a recluse clutch in a road bike off-road, I could definitely see the appeals to it. I'd love to give these two different options a go, see which one I've preferred off-road. There's a lot of screen, a lot of bike to look over if you do start getting the front end up. But hey, wouldn't be a normal test ride review video from me if I didn't try and get that front up. And I can confirm it does come up. Second gear, a little bit of clutch, she's away. Those clouds do not look tasty. In a minute, time for some lunch, have a little break, and we'll get back onto it. Let me know in the comments box below, have you got this bike, the Africa Twin, and if so, which model did you go for? The Standard, the Adventure Sport, or the Adventure Sport ES? And on top of that, did you get DCT or manual? I say this exhaust got a really throaty, deep sound to it, which I'm all for stock exhaust sounding good. Half the time, there's any reason people want to change it, because how it sounds or how it looks. I haven't got a problem with how this one looks, and it definitely sounds good enough. So I think it would be a keeper. Just like my Aprilia, that thing looks pretty good for a stock exhaust and sounds even better. So why spend 1800 quid to get a Aprilia approved Acra can? Waste of money. If you've not been down here before, you've not found this place, West Bay, absolute little gem. Always bikers down here. They've got some cracking fish and chips, great ice cream, you name it. There's even a Helmet City down here, so a nice little bike shop, got your gear, got your helmets. So yeah, if you've not done so before, get down to West Bay and see it. This is the best bit here. Nice local fish and chips and plenty of bikes. Also bike parking. So a couple of final things for me to point out before I show you a couple of the differences between the standard and the Adventure Sport. So at standard we have got the 21-inch front wheels and 18-inch rear wheels, so a good combination if you do want to start doing some light off-roading adventure style rides. There's a fairly decent amount of ground clearance with this bike, coming in at 250mm, so when you are going to start doing some of those jumps, a little bit more gnarly riding, you are going to be okay. But if you start doing hard enduro, you may want to watch yourself. Or you may want to get the Adventure Sport, because that does come with the bash plate. This bike is rocking the Showa rear suspension and the front suspension. The front suspension is the 45mm inverted forks. The Adventure Sport ES does come with electronic suspension. That's what the ES stands for. It took me a while to work it out. And so that's just going to make things a lot easier when you start going onto off-road. So just flick of the switch, change the suspension, change out the bike handles, really nice. So you haven't got to get your tools out and start tweaking the front and rear suspension. As mentioned, rear rack, this is what comes as standard, and this is what I was on about, these holes on either side. That's for the side luggage, so that's good to go inside the bike already, so you don't need an extra rack on the side. Really nice to see on these sports touring style bikes. The standard Africa Twin does come with an 18.8 litre fuel tank, but this Adventure Sport comes with a 24.8 litre fuel tank. So it is going to be a little bit heavier, but you are going to get more miles out of the tank. Absolutely something perfect if you are going in those little bit more hard to reach places. This twin cylinder 1048cc engine produces 75 kilowatts peak with 105 newton meters of torque. Remembering the other numbers that are quite important for a bike is has 100.6 brake horsepower and 226 kilos. So it is a fairly heavy bike, not the most brake horsepower in the bike range at the minute, but so far today I have not found any time where I've needed more power. Maybe if you start adding all the luggage, full tank, bags, etc., possibly, but as it is at the minute, it's been a fantastic bike today. So thinking about that, let's get back on the road. Some of the differences between the standard Africa Twin and then the African Adventure Sport. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, you do have the bigger tank, so 18 litres to 24. This is also going to come with a crash plate, which is highly recommended if you're going to do any form of off-roading. Stops the exhaust and the underside of the engine getting battered by rocks, logs, whatever you're going to be going over. Also, another thing, you'll be getting Radiator Guards. Recently I've seen more and more adventure style bikes on the road. The GS's, the KTM 1290 Super Adventures, and I can definitely see the appeal. It's comfortable, it handles really nicely, it's got an electronics package that you cannot complain with. Looks good and it sounds good. I get it, people, I get it. I will not be getting an adventure style bike just yet. I'm going to be hitting up the sports tourer first before I probably end up at something like this or a cruiser. So I just lowered the touring screen there just to see how it fares. Because previously the buffeting kind of hits just the top of your helmet, so it's just a little bit of wobble. So I'd lower it down and see what it's like. Hopefully it's not too bad on the mic. It's definitely better on the vision. The top of this is just that little bit lower, so actually when you are starting to go into the corners, it's not in your vision. This Scorpion helmet I've got isn't the best. It is a few years old, and as a helmet goes, it is pretty noisy. Luckily for me, I've gone and bought myself a new helmet. Ah, Ferrari, bungle. Before this helmet I was using the Ruroc 3.0, and that thing for audio on the videos was absolutely diabolical. I tried different microphones, different positions, no matter what I'd done I just couldn't seem to get it to work. I've seen other people out there using the Rurocs as their vlogging helmets and they've got it fine. I couldn't, so I've gone back to this helmet, and what I'm going to do, I bought this new helmet. I've got the HGC 70 Carbon Edition. That thing is meant to be El Quieto, so we'll be doing an unboxing review. I will be doing an unboxing video, a first ride review of that helmet, and then probably a vlogging setup for the helmet as well. And we'll see how it is. Hopefully it's quieter than this helmet. Like I said, some of these roads down south are absolutely beautiful. Southwest, should we say, southwest. I know Lammy done a couple of videos the other month when he went to Jurassic Coast, and that is this area. Beautiful. When you're not stuck behind cars, that is. As always, reviews like this wouldn't be possible without the supporters to the channel, so a big shout out to Branson's for lending us this bike. All the information will be in the description box below. If you're over in Yeovil, get yourself over there. They've got Honda and Yamaha for brand new bikes, but also they've got second-hand bikes and clothing as well. If you've enjoyed this video, give us a like. Make sure you subscribe to our channel because there's plenty more bikes coming just like this for 2022.